Thank you. Good morning. So, it's great being here. It's great seeing so many startups. Feels like Tel Aviv. I'm going to talk today about Ukraine, the next startup nation. Okay. But before I start with that, let me tell you something personal. I live here in Kiev. And my colleagues in Israel, they always ask me, especially in the last few months, are you crazy? Living in Kiev? There's a war out there. I'm always telling them, it's okay, I'm just replacing the war above. That's the war in Israel with this war. I got used to it. When the first time I came in Ukraine, that was about 8 years ago. I was a young entrepreneur, beginning of my way as an entrepreneur. I started a software development company providing software development services to Israeli high-tech companies. And I came here to Ukraine to find a good partner to work with. I put on my best suit because people told me, like, you have to come here with a suit. This is Europe. Apparently not good enough suit. I got some bad feedback. And I came here, I start talking to people, and I hear a lot of people are talking about IT industry. That was like first times I heard this phrase. I come from the high-tech industry. Okay, this is how we call it in Israel, high-tech industry. IT in Israel is like IT department. The sysadmin guys that do the network, the hosting, the servers, the software upgrades, not the software development. And at the beginning I thought like I'm not hearing well, maybe they're saying high-tech but in a Russian accent or something like that. But eventually I got it. Here it's IT industry. In Israel, in the USA, it's high-tech industry. And the main difference here is that here, the whole industry is selling services, selling heads to the West. And in Israel, it's mostly product development. We are developing products and sell the products. You all look the same. Geeks are geeks are geeks. The developers in Israel look exactly like the developers here. In fact, a lot of the developers in Israel came from the Ukraine and the ex-Soviet Union. But in Israel, this industry is much bigger, much more developed, and not because we are smarter, because we are selling products, not services. We're not selling billable hours, we're selling billable products. And I'm coming here with an optimistic approach, looking at Ukraine, at the IT market today, looking at the crisis, but seeing the first beginnings for a high-tech industry here in Ukraine. A few words about myself. So I'm a father of 3 wonderful children and 2 not-so-great ex-wives. I'm a geek. I'm in the software industry for the last 30 years. Started as a teenager, programming on Spectrum ZX and Commodore 64, if any of you heard about these dinosaurs. I was drafted to the Israeli Army Intelligence. They took me because I knew Arabic, but at the end of the day, they liked me because I knew Java, and I ended up doing a lot of software for the Army Intelligence. I studied in the Technion, that's like the Israeli equivalent to the Kiev Polytech. I was the chief architect in an Israeli high-tech company called MindCTI, traded on the NASDAQ, about 300 developers. And today I am the founder and CEO of Ignite. It's an IT company with headquarters in Israel, business units in Germany, Austria, and approximately 200 developers here in Ukraine. And I'm heading the R&D forum, the R&D Managers Forum in Israel. and I live here in Ukraine. This is my second home. So I live here in Ukraine, and I'm from Israel, and it's inevitable that I will start making comparisons between Israel and Ukraine. What is similar, what is different? Let's look at the country level. Israel is 66 years old. Ukraine is in its independence from 23 years old. Israel is 22,000 square kilometers. Tiny, tiny, tiny country, okay? We registered our company here in Ukraine in Zhytomyr Oblast, and I once measured, and it looks like Zhytomyr Oblast is bigger than the whole of Israel. Population in Israel is about 8 million. Here it's like 44, 45. And we are in war all the time, okay? You are experiencing your first war. For us, we just finished the war a month ago. Probably the next one will be in 2 years. We got used to that. In Israel, it's like a routine. You have a war, you get some few years rest, and then a new war starts. War is not so bad. Of course, it's bad. But war also generates some good things. And one good thing that war generates is tolerance to risk. When you are at war, you become more innovative, and you're willing to take risks. Why? Because, you know, you live in a risk. You understand that life is a risk. Life can terminate every minute, okay? So why not take a risk and try to do something better? Israel is the startup nation, okay? That's like a common term. Few facts about Israel. Tel Aviv comes second in terms of the startup industry, right after Silicon Valley, okay? In fact, in absolute numbers, not in percentage, in absolute numbers, comparing to the population, we are bigger than China, okay? We come second only to the Silicon Valley in terms of the amount of startup companies. We have R&D centers of Google, and I'm proud to say that Google acquired a company called Waze that have an R&D center in Ignite, in Zhytomyr. There's a Google branch in Zhytomyr today through acquisition of an Israeli company. Microsoft is big in Israel, again, through acquisitions of startup companies. Facebook, again, one of our customers, again, through acquisition of an Israeli company. IBM activates a unit called GTU in Israel. That's the only country in the world that they do it, that its only purpose in life is to find interesting startups, invest in them through providing them servers, in IT infrastructure, and even funds, and get them to use IBM products when they become bigger. There are approximately 400, 500 new startups per year in Israel, and each month approximately 10 new companies arrive to New York. There is a very strong venture capital and private angel network in Israel. And as I said, it's after the US, it's like the second best place to have a startup. Some more statistics on the VC area in Israel. Approximately 70 VCs compared to 7 here. Angel investor is a network of approximately 2,000 active investors. Here it's about 50. And active startups, more than 5,000 companies. But it wasn't always like that. Approximately 30 years ago, Israel was pretty much at the same place like Ukraine. We were selling cheap labor force for the US high-tech market, okay? The source for these developers came from the Israeli army. The Israeli army is very small and very sophisticated. We are developing a lot of weapons, electronic warfare, command and control systems, missile systems, avionics systems, and the Israeli army generate great engineers. These engineers came to the market, they got released from the army, and they're looking what to do. And then came the global companies. Beginning was Motorola, then it was Intel, And they start hiring those, they set up R&D centers in Israel, started hiring those guys. But Israelis are entrepreneurs by spirit. So you sit down, you work for Intel for 5 years, excellent terms, good life, but the bug, the entrepreneurship bug, keeps bothering you. Okay, so what do I do next? Why should I work for somebody else? I want to make my own money. And then they leave the big company. They leave it. They leave all those wonderful terms and their salary and everything. They go back to live on their own expense, developing a product. A lot of them tried. At the beginning, it wasn't easy. A lot of them failed. But eventually, some success happened. One company developed a good idea and being acquired by an international company, by Motorola. So these are guys that left Motorola, build up their own startup, and then sold the startup back to Motorola. And it happened once, and again, and again, and again, and again. And then the investment community look at it and say, wow, something interesting is happening in Israel. So there comes the VCs and the private angels. So now there is money. There's money, there's more entrepreneurships, because that's the fuel of this industry. Having a good idea and big balls is not enough. Having money is what makes it makes it actually happen. So then comes the VCs, and the rest is history, okay? And today Israel is really one of the biggest communities for startup in the high-tech vertical. If you want, I would recommend to you to read the book Startup Nation. Really interesting. It tells a little in more details what I just told you. So Israel and Ukraine, different but alike. There's many differences, but I see a lot of similarities. First of all, there is a really high motivation for higher education. The numbers that I know is approximately 70% of the working population here have a higher degree. This is amazing numbers. Israel is smaller than that, but there is also this Jewish mom factor. You have to study. You have to study. If you don't study, you're nothing in life, okay? So that's one similarity. The hunger to succeed, this hunger to prove yourself, to succeed, to have a better life, the only country that I see it on the same level as Israel is here. I have offices in Germany, in Austria. Germany, great country, great economy. You don't see hungry people. You just don't see them. They have good life. Why should they work harder? Okay? This individualistic and entrepreneurial spirit, really much the same as here as in Israel. I always say that this is the blessing and the curse of Ukraine. People are here extremely individualistic. I trust only myself, and I will do it on myself. They work in a big company, and just like in Israel, they live. They live. Why? Because I have an opportunity. I can take one customer, and then I'll work alone, I'll make more money, and then I'll find some other customers. The problem here that the business environment is not developed enough. The awareness of how to do sales, marketing is not yet developed. But this individualistic spirit, this entrepreneurship spirit, exists here on really, really high levels. And that's a mandatory factor to succeed. The need to control your own destiny. And I think it's becoming bigger and bigger lately due to the war. The general life in Ukraine, if I compare it to Israel, the amount of uncertainty here is really high. In Israel, it's an external factor, right? We are surrounded by enemies, and we don't really control when they will start the next war. Here it's different. Okay, now you have a war too, but in general, the level of uncertainty in life here is really high due to the government, okay? Today you have work, tomorrow somebody passes a law and the whole industry goes down and you don't have work. Taxes changes, day and night. It's really, there is a level of uncertainty. When there is a high level of uncertainty in your life, you try to get control. That's the human nature, right? You can't change the government, you can't change the country, but you can change yourself. You can get control of your own life. Having your own startup company is one way to gain control. And that's what's happening here now. The tolerance to risk, as I said, okay, I can die tomorrow. If I can die tomorrow, let's live today. Let's do something right today to get control of my life and to succeed. Flexible mind, really, it's amazing. Israelis are very flexible. So there's the law, there's the difficulty, but there's always a way. There's always a, just let's look to the right, let's look to the left, we'll find a way out. Ukrainians are very much the same. Huge amount of difficulties, huge amount of bureaucracy. There's always a way to do something. There's always a way. There's always the way to bypass the difficulty, to solve the bureaucracy, and to continue on. And opportunistic mentality. Now, opportunistic is considered a really bad characteristic, right? If you're an opportunistic, you just seize an opportunity, you're not really thinking ahead, not planning ahead. But when you're an entrepreneur, it's a really good character. It's at the beginning of the way. That's the way to do it. You see an opportunity, you seize it. You don't start thinking, is it going to be possible? Can I make it? What are going to be the difficulties on the way? Let's plan ahead for the next 5 years. You can't plan ahead for the next 5 years. You trust your gut feelings, you see the opportunity, you seize it, and you go along, and you improvise. Improvisation is a really good characteristic for entrepreneurs. So there's a lot of good things in the Ukrainian mentality that I see, which are very similar to Israel and fit this entrepreneurship ecosystem. But how do you do this? How do you do this? Now, the typical thing that I hear here in Ukraine from Ukrainians is huge amount of complaints for the government, for corruption and bureaucracy, and of course now there's Putin, and we have huge amount of problems. And it's all, they are all to blame, and that's the reason why we are in a big shit. And that's it, this is life. Guys, what I'm saying is that you're barking at the wrong tree. Yes, there is a corruption here is a huge problem. Bureaucracy here is a huge problem. The legal rights for investors is, or let's say the no legal rights for investors is a huge problem here. The level of uncertainty, the lack of knowledge and transparency, it's all huge problems here. But the help will not come from the government. It will not come. There is a good ecosystem, mentality-wise, culturally-wise, there is a good ecosystem and a chance for Ukraine to be the next startup nation. But don't expect it to come from the public sector. The private sector has to act, and act now, okay? And the good thing about Ukrainian mentality, as the way I see it, again, as a foreigner, people here are very practical. If the private sector will start doing something, the public sector will join. People here like successful people. They join successful. They just follow successful people. Do something good in the private sector where you can see the benefit. The private sector here works well in the IT industry, and the public sector will follow. Start the process, and it will follow. And indeed, this is what is happening right now. If you look at the what's happening now on the IT incubation, this is the beginning, okay? IT incubators. Now, in Israel, most of the IT incubators are starting as a government initiative, academic initiative. They're trying to take good ideas, bring the entrepreneurs into a safe ecosystem, and give them the funds and the means to develop the idea into a prototype, okay? Here, it will not come from the public sector, but it can come from the private sectors, because IT companies have to realize that the change is coming. It's not going to be in 1 year, 2 years, maybe not even 5 years. But eventually, this labor gap, the labor arbitrage that is sponsoring the IT community is going to end, and Ukraine is going to be part of Europe. And this whole industry that I'm part of it, my company is part of it, is going to vanish. And it's going to become a startup nation. And you have to start preparing for that now. Build an IT incubator and start preparing for it now. That's just a few of those that just came up. Most of them are private initiative. So basically, my own conclusion is to start an IT incubator. So we are here to launch a new IT incubator. We're looking for entrepreneurs in the homeland and cybersecurity. This is one of the strengths in Israel. Medical devices, social and mobile gaming, and software tools and software infrastructures. And I'm willing to meet anybody that is interested in this initiative and want to talk about it further. Thank you. Questions? Thank you, guys. See you around.